Hello, beautiful humans. You are here to think out loud with me. I am Natalie Peterson, casting in from my little neck of the woods in northern Colorado to you in yours, wherever and whenever that might be. This little digital adventure is my way of turning years of internal chatter and wondering, silent suffering, and physical and mental close calls into enlightening and empowering conversations with others. The sun is rising on a beautiful day. It's fall, and it's the kind of fall day that I sort of maybe, okay, absolutely, 100%. I adore these types of days. I woke to the air being chilly, and after wrapping myself in my robe, I actually turned the fireplace on for the first time of the season. And yes, it is going to be 90 degrees today on the flip side, but last night it flirted with the 30s. And that is a cry for cozy in my book. So I went ahead and flipped that switch and sat by the fire this morning and did my morning routine and leaned into the day in front of me. Speaking of changing seasons, I'm eyeball deep in one of my own, and as I approach the big 5-0 of my life and my 50th trip around the sun, I'm in this mode of wonder around change. And I receive a daily email from one of my teachers. And actually, this morning it was interesting. It's always like she's synced up with my own, and she offered a reflection of the concept of change. I want to read it to you. Change. It's as common as our breath. We experience it daily in big and small ways. Traffic lights change, addresses change, people change, problems change. You'd think that we'd be accepting of change with all of our life experience in that area. But the truth is, most of us resist change because change around us activates change within us. Change requires us to make choices, and the ability to choose is a great gift. And then she asks, how would your life be different if you recognize change as an opportunity to choose what you will do next? Allow change to be empowering. I can honestly say that change doesn't scare me anymore. In fact, I get a little jumpy and I experience nerves, but it's more nerves of anticipation. It's really not fear that I feel, and it's curious to me, entering the season of change in my own life, and the feelings of what's next, the excitement around what's next, the idea that I could be whoever I want to be in this next chapter. It's fascinating to me. I want to talk about this concept and talk about what it means to change our inner worlds and to branch out into massive worlds, new dimensions with my guest today. She's joining me from, I didn't ask her to pronounce this one for me, Florianopolis, Santa Catarina, Brazil. Carolini Arco is a full-time healer. She's a manifester. She's a teacher. She's a mentor. And I encountered her in a networking space that she and I share called Her Nation. I've mentioned Her Nation in several casts. I saw her on my screen and wondered at her energy and her softness, and I was drawn to connect with her and learn more about her. Her own magic comes to life in one-on-one consultations with clients. I don't want to call them consultations because as I've gotten to know her through her different online profiles, I think it's much more than a consultation. It seems to be a journey, a co-journey, a co-author journey. She conducts ceremonies, classes, and other personal development programs designed to raise the frequency and empower individuals to, and these are her words, facilitate radical and lasting transformation. Carolini, I am incredibly grateful to have you piping in from Brazil on this beautiful morning. It's a couple hours ahead where you are. Welcome to Think Out Loud with me. I'm incredibly excited to do that with you and say hi to folks.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for welcoming Natalie, and thank you for bringing me into the beautiful, crisp fall morning. I was right there with you. I basically like saw the leaves falling into the ground. So thank you for the nice warm hug to my heart.
Yes, absolutely. It's a heart hug, right?
Mhm.
Your season over there, before we hit record, you are in the spring season in Brazil, and just came off a yummy storm and some powerful energy moving around you. And I was hoping to use that kind of as a launch pad for thinking about this idea of change with me, and just you know, what is it about our world? There's an intensity going on in our world um, around just life in general. Here in the United States, there's um, I intensity is a nice word to describe the things going on here, but on a global stage, there's a level of intensity that has people, some folks on edge, some folks scared. Um, what's your experience, or can you describe the change and the intensity that's going on in our world right now from your perspective?
Mhm. So, as you so beautifully introduced me, I'm a spiritual teacher, right? Which means that I work with beings that are beyond this veil. And this has been an experience that I've had since very early in life. As early as 7 years old, I started receiving messages from different kinds of consciousness that were more expanded than our own. And I remember when I was around, I would say 18 to 19 years old, I received this very clear message that we were in a time of immense transformation in the planet, and that this transformation would come with destruction, it would come with death, and it was something for humans to learn how to master this ability to navigate the intensity of life, the rich facets that life brought. And at that time, of course, there was no internet, there was no Instagram. So it was very much like a personal experience. Now we have so many people talking about it, which is lovely. But that really guided my life and the way that I have seen and related to intensity in different moments of change through my life. And I think what we're experiencing right now is we're understanding that life is very multidimensional. We can't just operate from the mind alone anymore. It's not going to work. But also operating from the body alone anymore is not going to work. But also operating from heart and spirit alone is not going to work. There's an integration that is happening, and that integration is requiring us to feel it all of it. And I feel like a big challenge for humans is to allow ourselves to feel. It's almost like we're comfortable with certain levels of feeling. I'm comfortable feeling happy until this point. After that is wrong. I'm comfortable feeling sad or expressing sadness until that point. After that is wrong. And we're pushing beyond our boundaries of that
Mm,
to actually become open enough that life can run through us with its intense emotions, with its ever constant change. It can actually flow through us without the resistance that it has been encountering so often. So I think what we're seeing in the collective space and individually for many of us is we're finding that edge where I'm not open to go there anymore. That resistance point, we're finding the resistance point for ourselves. And that is coming in this form of depression, that is coming in the form of anxiety, that's coming in the form of immense, like neurotic fear. And we are being asked to go further. Are you
mm,
going to push through that? Are you actually going to learn how to find safety
mm,
in the bigness of that emotion, of that change?
mhm. As you're speaking, I think regardless of the actually no, it isn't regardless of, because that's too sweeping a term. We are conditioned to resist. We have been conditioned to resist. And the though there have been those in front of us, and even you from a young age, without the internet, without the input of, comparing ourselves, and just this influx of information and influence, that breaking through conditioning is such a monumental task. And I'm not making a lot of sense here, except to say that it's going to take, there are those that have been on a journey, multiple journeys, multiple lives of transformation, that are steps in front of us, that are teaching and mentoring and pulling this concept of reaching past the edge, and pushing, not pushing because that feels forceful, but leaning into the discomfort of change and intensity to find out what that emotion is that they're feeling, and to go down a layer to find out where that emotion bubbled up from, and go down even a further layer and find out if there's a story that they could question, and then go down another layer to find out if there's a connection to the person sitting beside them that's similar, going down another connection, another layer to find out that Carolini in Brazil and Natalie in Colorado are in fact one of the same energy at our very basis.
Mhm.
Like, I think I just blew my own mind.
I saw that.
Did you see it?
Yes.
Maybe I had either one too many cups of coffee this morning, or not enough. But I'm just thinking, I guess where it came from, and listening to you, is I'm thinking of you as a small child and receiving this input and this intelligence coming to you. And then were you driven to share? Were you, because, you know, like, we've had so much influence by the internet and so much influence by this online connection that we almost can't remember what it was like not to be this connected, right? And so I'm imagining you with this intelligence and knowing, and then as a young adult, like, there is some big shit coming down.
Yeah.
I have to get ready.
Yeah.
I'm in a place of leadership.
Yes. Hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that experience like as a young person to have that kind of knowing? Are there words to describe it?
It has been an intense experience. My whole life journey has been an experience of intensity. Because, yeah, I think when you are as early as 7 and you have these messages around purpose and mission and big things in the world, you can't comprehend what it means, and it feels like pressure. There's an element of pressure that does not feel good. It's a sense of responsibility that is too high for a young person to hold.
Mm,
So it has definitely been an intense experience for me. And there has definitely been a lot of resistance in my path. And I had to go through the journey of denying it for a very long time, until denying it became an amount of suffering that was unbearable.
hmm
So I had to accept it. And when I accepted, it's not that it became easier per se, it's still intense, but my life really helped, because I started manifesting all the resources that I need in order to create that mission, to see that coming forth. And so that obviously made things easier on
hmm
like a very basic environmental level, to be able to fulfill this mission, to go go ahead with this mission. But it is a big task that we have ahead of us, I think, for all of us, because we are in this moment of massive change. We are birthing the new earth. Is, as you said, I think that's such a beautiful example. We were the last generations that were born before the internet. We've experienced a shift that I don't think we acknowledge the grandness of. Once the internet came on, in a level, very intuitive level, we understood that we're not alone anymore. We understood the concept of interconnectedness, this whole like mind-blowing moment that you had. Very similar to that, right? The internet gave us an opportunity to actually understand, wow, I'm not separate from Africa. I'm not separate from Brazil and the US. Like all of it is one, and we can interact with each other in real time, instantaneously. It created a rupture in the human consciousness that made us evolve beyond what we have been before, right? Like we are in a process of evolution, like biological evolution. Our brains are evolving to having to deal with this immense amount of information per minute. And so I think we are all in this process of having to honor the responsibility that we have right now with these new tools, with this new awareness that, yes, things are intense. Yes, change is coming. And to be asking ourselves, well, who do I want to be amidst change? Do I want to be the one that is scared in the corner and is complaining or like banging against the wall because I hate this so much and I wish it wasn't happening? It's their fault and that fault and that fault, right? Like, do I want to be that? Or do I want to be the one that's like, okay, this responsibility was given to me in this lifetime, so I will take it. And I will go into the field like chest open. This is what I stand for. This is what I'm creating from here. This is what I'm alchemizing all this fear of change into. Which I think is the biggest opportunity. And it's not that one is easier and the other is harder. I think both of these options will perhaps be equally as hard. But when we are living in purpose, there's an inner knowing that we're safe through it all. We might be afraid in some level or another, but there's an inner knowing that we're safe. I think that's where you were talking about this big process of change, turning 50, and I can feel the excitement for the change, but there's also a certainty that I'm safe through it all. It's an exciting time. Though it's intense, it's an exciting time. Yeah, what do you think?
I think that there's like, yes, and like when you get to a place where you have, if I think about a whole nother like 50 years, easy. Like now the perspective, if we come into this life with perspective and we choose, you know, and then on this planet in this form receiving even more perspective through the series of being a very young person, being a young adult, the craziness of everything from puberty to, you know, coming of age and breaking out and being on your own, to the interesting like journey of finding an identity, deciding, no, I don't want to be that, and going in a whole different direction, pissing everybody off, blowing shit up because you can, and hot whatever, right? Addiction, depression, journeys back from your from dark places into a place now to be at kind of a crossroads and a place of change. And I'm saying all this feeling like there's a parallel with, yeah, the larger world that we're sitting on, where it's like, okay, we have all this perspective and now we have all this connection, and now what are we going to do with it? And those of us that are compelled to be on the front line, who are turned around with our hands extended saying, grab my hand, I've got you, are very much in a place of, as a place of safety and an anchor, but also in a place of knowing and connection to, to what's possible, and very much needed. And I've got a really sloppy segue here to think about, because I do want to get to this, about your own. You've talked a couple times about being on a mission. You're on a mission to, if I'm recalling right. So opening conversations as a teacher and a mentor and a coach,
Mm-hmm.
opening conversations around the future of who you are, and as a representative of the coaching, mentoring industry. Speaking of conditioned resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there's always been a way that this, not always, but there's been a way this has worked, and that there's a disconnect between the economy of, trading, here's my dollars for my service rendered, that there's a disconnect there, that you're opening conversations around. And I want to get into that realm and your thinking around
Yeah,
mentorship and leadership in the space that you're in.
beautiful. Yeah, so I would say that my grander mission is really to support the advancement of humanity as a whole.
Mm,
And is what some people call the new golden age of humanity, right? There's different names for it. I call it heaven on earth, is supporting the possibility of that becoming a lived reality for everybody. And that includes accessing our inner resources and certain abilities that have been hidden or not explored, such as the ability of manifestation, channeling, many beautiful gifts in that sense. And within that bigger mission, I think the coaching industry sort of became one segment of that, because I have been an active part of the coaching industry for the last almost 8 years now. And I have been the kind of person who was lucky enough to be able to say that this is what I do for a living, right? Like, this is what sustains me. This is what allows me to buy my home. Like, I make my income and my resources by doing something that is completely connected to my heart, that I deeply adore, and that is completely out of the conditioning patterns that the world has
mhm,
put us in. And what I've seen in the coaching industry was quite disappointing, I think, from all sides. It was disappointing as clients, it was disappointing as mentors. But what I think the biggest message, and why I think this mission is so important to me, is because I see that the mentors, the coaches, the teachers, they are the leaders of the new earth, because we understand the concept of leadership and we have accepted that role in one way or another. So the way that we lead inside the coaching industry gets to be an example for how new paradigm leadership looks like in the world as a whole. And one of the big pieces that I think that is still needs to be rewrite, disconnected, deconditioned somehow, that I don't have all the answers for, but I'm willing to explore with people, is that when we try to put like mentorship, coaching, leadership into a business model, it feels like it misses something.
mhm,
It's almost like we put a middleman. So I hope I'm explaining myself right into this. So before there's an energy of, I'm the mentor, I'm the guide, I'm the teacher, and you are the mentee, the students, and we have this like natural flow, this natural exchange between ourselves. It's natural that I'm going to give and I'm going to receive, and this just happens, right? Then it seems like the moment that we put a business in the middle of this, it became a lot more complicated than it needed to be, because it suddenly wasn't about like me and you just receiving. It was me, the business, and you. And now you have to interact with the business and not with me. And so the business has, all these business boundaries and what's right and what's wrong. And I think we missed the essence of this natural flow of exchange that, yes, will produce financial resources naturally.
mhm,
Um, but we missed the essence of it when we like went into the business world, when we tried to put this into the business world. So a part of my mission and my conversation is, how do we actually innovate from here? How can we stand strongly in, I am the kind of person who is creating sacred resources through my gifts, and the structures through which that service is held get to look different they get to come from a hard place. They get to be from a different place. That's not necessarily what the business paradigm has been so far, creating a new paradigm. Yeah, because I know that what gets us, stuck is the money piece. Like, yeah, I've been in conversations, Natalie, I don't know how deep you want to go into this. Of course, I can go so deeper into this, but I've been in conversations with the most incredible leaders, like very aware people with like great ideas and everything. And the moment that the money piece comes into the room, it's like everybody like shuts down. And I'm just watching this from a place of a lot of compassion. And a part of me is saying, we're so much better than this. Like, come on, let's address the elephant in the room. Then if the elephant in the room is the money dynamics that have been playing out that we're not happy with, let's talk about it. Let's see it. Let's brainstorm new ways. Let's not shut ourselves down, because when we're shutting ourselves down from talking about the money piece, we're also shutting ourselves from the possibility that we get to create a very beautiful financial reality through the expressions of our gifts in a way that is new, that is not necessarily through the old business paradigm. So that's one piece of, of my whole mission.
I love it though, and I want to acknowledge a shared feeling in I love the way synchronicity works. I was literally just talking to another beautiful human being last evening about this concept as she launches into her own heart space and offers her own magic. She finds herself like, okay, so this is a buy one, get one. And she's like, what am I doing? No, this is this.
Yes.
Like and that feeling that being her as a beautiful person trying to create uh a, and realize a return of resources to her so she can continue to create. And then from my perspective as the mentee, where I have bought into, or I have felt compelled to connect with someone and felt a genuine connection, and then walked into the room, and a few minutes into it, and this happened to me a couple weekends ago, walked into it and whomp, ran into that
Sales lead, like,
sales.
yes, yeah.
And I realized, I looked around and I thought, I'm a number. So that immediately shut me down. The authenticity left the room. I didn't want to be there. But then I also started having doubts around, like, but why is she here? She gets it. Is it me? Why can't I be her? She's all in. She's at the front of the room in the front row with her hand raised, and I see her succeeding. And do I suck
Yeah.
because I'm skeptical of the money situation? Is it me? And then I'm like, wait, okay, if I'm this tied up in my head over the experience, then it's obviously not right for me. But it comes back to this, where it's like, if there's that many different experiences going on in the room, then the authenticity is the energy is just scattered.
Yeah, it's hard, and it's a sensitive conversation because everybody's coming from a very different point of view, right? And I think that's the piece as well, that we have been taught that being all in meant you're selling. That's why when a woman sat with you, you're like, oh, she's all in. She gave me an offer. She was unapologetically about it, and she was just like, she's all in. Why am I not all in? We have been taught that being all in means you're selling, you're selling, you're selling. I think that being all in means that you're serving, you're serving, you're serving. I'm experiencing right now, for an example, this year is a year. Last year, I sold a bunch, the last couple of years, and it felt really easy, it felt really natural. I really believed in the offers, like I wanted those people to be in. This year, I didn't feel like selling much at all. I just didn't. And I have, like, right now, 80% full capacity on my one-on-one coaching, right? Like throughout the whole year without selling at all, because the service speaks for itself. When you are serving, the resource has no way but to find you. That has been my true lived experience. But we're so disconnected from the trusting in that, which is what is required if we're going to create a new paradigm for leadership. Is we need to trust that a new way works. Again, the fear of change. We're afraid. What if I let go? What if I stop selling? What if I stop with that pushy language? What if I stop putting myself as the authority? Will that work? Because I know that in the past, this is what has worked. If we're leaders, we need to trust that the new way will work. And the only way we will do it is if we actually go for it and create the new way. For anything, right? For the coaching industry or for anybody, the only way that we will know that the new way will work is if we go for it and if we try. I think that's our job to do, is to actually come into a place of integrity with ourselves, of I believe that it is possible to be successful, to create resources by serving through my heart, by being true about who I am, by redefining my relationship with money and resources, and not making this conditioned thing that I need to have a business for money to come to me, like bullshit. That's I've manifested $20,000 out of nowhere, $50,000 out of nowhere multiple times, not through my business. And I have stories about it that I can share, You don't need the freaking business in order to create the money. Let's stop that mentality. Money is one thing, business is another thing. And if we believe that, I get to serve through my resources, I will be supported. I get to serve through my heart. I will be supported in my life. I will receive the resources. And the only thing that I need to do is to serve through my heart and know, and trust and trust and trust. Then that's what we need to be in integrity with and operate from.
Yep.
Instead of falling back of, but I'm going to try that. I'm going to try doing that offer that I don't really want. And that 2-for-1 buy two, I don't know, buy one, get two,
Right.
just to see, I'm just going to tap my fingers. There's no, I'm in integrity. This is who I am now. That's what I'm stepping into now. This is how I'm walking now. And I will trust as if it was my job to trust, because it is. We're trusting in people. We're trusting in transformation. We have to trust it in ourselves first. How can I say I trust in your transformation if I don't trust in my transformation, in the transformation of the coaching industry, the transformation? You know what I mean? I trust in change. I trust in transformation.
It goes back to what you were saying, just by its very nature of this, this role is the leading edge of where we're leading by example and connecting by example and showing what's possible. And so I have a friend the itty bitty shitty committee who sits in my brain and says, yeah, but did you hear that money isn't an issue for those people that easy for you to say. I live from a place, I have built, I'm thinking this is right. These are the voices. I have bills to pay. I have a kid downstairs. I have and I mean, so then I go from that to yes. And you have to start somewhere. And that is, you can support all of the bills to pay. Yes, it costs money to be on this planet. It is the method by which we exchange goods and services, is that piece of right is money. But if you don't completely shift your relationship to it, you will always stay in that relationship with it.
Bingo. If you don't change your relationship to it, you're always going to stay in that feeling like a slave to it. It is I say that with all the love in my heart, but it is every individual's personal responsibility to shift your relationship with money. It is not about getting my point of view. It is not about trusting that the way that I see money is the way that you should see money, or that's the way that is right for you. That I don't think that's it at all. But it is a personal journey that each individual has to be willing to go through. What is my relationship with money? How do I want my relationship with money to feel like? And I'm not trying to sell or anything, but I just did like an 11-day journey for my membership community around that, the self and resources, coming into a place of sovereignty with money for yourself. Natalie, I left home when I was 18 years old. I had $60 in my pocket and started life new again, estranged from my parents. That was the beginning of my adult life. Okay. Let's just start with that. I immigrated to Canada when I was 23 years old by myself. I had $2,000 that I managed to save somehow that was supposed to last me for 6 months. $2,000 to last me for 6 months. I lived on an attic of a home for $200 a month. I used to eat at Dollarama was my grocery store. I used to eat at the Buddhist temple because they would give free foods. And that was my life. And you know what? I felt incredibly abundant by living with $600 a month back then. Yeah. For some of us, when we actually go ahead and we do our own relationship work with money, we will discover that you don't actually need as much more as you think you do, but there is an opportunity to step into enoughness for what is already here. And for some of us, that will be the work. You actually have to look at it and be like, you know what? I don't need to be a slave of this thing money. Where I am at is actually really good. And I get to own that. I get to be proud of that. I get to stop the conditioning that tells me I need more, 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 more.
Yep.
But again, it comes back to, is each one of us individual responsibility to do our work around that.
Yep. Yep. And unwind, you nailed it. It is conditioning, and it has been in place and in motion and impacting us for generations. And in order for us to, granted time, information age, the internet, the connectivity there's a faster and much more intense pace to things, but we have unraveling to do, and patience and grace and and connecting with beautiful humans that are a few steps ahead, not as a place of power, not as a place of authority, or I told you or I'm telling you, but as a place of mentorship. I think that's a key distinction that you're making, is guidance and being the type of leader and mentor that you needed, or that you and giving into the collective what you know from experience, being a few steps forward, again, not as a place of, there's not an authority to it or a hierarchy to it, that's where I think the business starts to filter in, the money part starts to filter in. Well, you need to listen to me because I've made money on this, people pay me for this, so that's my authority that it works, or that's the blue check mark by my name means that I know what I'm talking about. That I know what I'm talking about comes through in the way that I come in, and
Yeah.
and that is my and in service to others. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a continuous evolution, right? And it's a lot of trial and error, I think, and it's being okay with being in the process of trial and error. But it's definitely something that I stand for and I do my best to live by, is we are in an exchange. This is very much the time that we're at in the planet requires sovereignty. And sovereignty is an individual process. It's not about me telling you what to do or who to be, or, it's just, if I can help you, if I can offer some reflection, some questioning, anything that will help you get into a place of more sovereignty for yourself, that is my job.
Mm-hmm.
Even if your sovereignty means that it's completely different than mine and that you completely disagree with everything that I say, I can absolutely respect you on that.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There, as I was stalking you online, you said in a post, if we knew how immensely valuable we are, we wouldn't waste a minute in doubt or regret.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And it helps me understand how committed you are, uh, that self love that has happened for you and with you, and then helping others step into that place of just immense value. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you, Natalie.
You have beautiful photography online. You have like just fantastic images. I want to share with folks how they can get to know you like I'm getting to know you. Um, who does your photography for you? It's beautiful.
Yeah, I have a few different angels in my life who
Yes,
are
you
just the
do.
most skilled human beings and who are always up to a challenge, when I'm like, I want something gold. I'm going to
Yeah,
paint my hair gold and then spread gold all over my face.
I
Can we do
love
something cool with that? They're like, yes, we
Yes.
can.
Yes. We all need those angels. Yes. There's a book that I just gifted to someone in a spiritual exchange called Hiring the Heavens. And yeah, that it's we all need this team of yummy individuals. So Instagram, your handle is Arco, which is your last name, Arco Teachings, which I find is really engaging and not only just from the photography, but just your thoughts. And then on Facebook, the handle is Caroline.
Yeah, you can find me as both Carolini and Caroline. So secret here, I'm Brazilian. I was born in Brazil, speak Portuguese originally. So my name would be written the same as Caroline in English, but Caroline was the version of me who was very depressed and who had a
Yeah.
really hard time finding herself. Um, and so in Portuguese, originally how you would say my name is Carolini. And I was like, well, I actually want to honor that. So I'll keep the Carolini. So you're going to see it written in two ways. I know it's confusing. You're going to see it written with an I at the end or with an E at the end. But through both ways, you can find me on Facebook.
Yeah.
Carolini Arco. Yes.
But what a cool, I mean, just what a cool perspective of your origins and just honoring parts of your path. That's incredible. Is there anything you've mentioned, we've touched on a few different things that folks do with you throughout this conversation. Is there anything in particular that you're working on right now, or that you just in closing thoughts, or before we land this plane, if you will, that you're compelled to share with folks that are listening in?
Yeah, so I do have membership community that is quite affordable and is a space for light workers to come together and to do this work of emotional mastery and also of validating our new beliefs as we are creating a new paradigm. And is a space for a lot of empowerment, is also a space for a lot of community. So if anybody is desiring a room where you can be having these kinds of conversations in real time and how to apply these concepts,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a really good place to check it out. So you can find it inside my website. Is called The Inner Circle, and that's a good place to
Yeah.
start. Mhm.
And the and being empowered and proud of light work.
Yes.
There's a lot of naysayers. There can be discomfort around the concept of or around introducing you can experience pushback, whether it's energetic or quite literal pushback about being a light worker. And I'm imagining that this is a room where you
Yes.
work through that and find your energy growing and strengthening, um, which I think is very necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a place for ownership, for us
Mhm.
to own that that's what we do, that's who we are. And it doesn't mean that you need to be a healer. It doesn't mean that you need to work with this specifically. It just means that you have a true desire to contribute to the planet through your gifts, through your sacred purpose. Even if you don't know what that is yet, like you're there, right? You want to be part of this movement of growth. And it's very much about owning it, the value of it, how
Mhm.
much value we have when we come into that place.
Mhm.
of ownership, because that sentence that you were just mentioning before of if we only knew how valuable we were, we wouldn't waste a moment in doubt, that really came from me, if I may share just as a close thought as well, that really came from me walking through my life, my daily life outside of the internet, and noticing the value that I was giving to people in the smallest interactions. So when I was able to buy a piece of jewelry from the artisan that was selling it by the beach, I would take a moment, I would really feel into the impact that I was giving, not just for that artisan, but for art as a whole, for the culture of all the artisans who felt that perhaps they weren't able to work through their art, and the contribution of that and the natural materials that were being used. And when I go to the supermarket, I live in this small fishing village. And so the supermarket has the name of, a family that has lived here forever. And I was like, this is so important to me that I'm able to support this family instead of the big corporations. Or I have a story on my Instagram about my homekeeper, which I found by the beach selling candies, and was able to together, obviously, really elevate her life. And so that came from me like walking my life and noticing, wow, like this action has so much value. This action has so much value. It might be something that's so trivial, but if we stop to think about it, it's really creating a ripple impact. And that's where that sentence really, really landed for me. So that's why I shared it too.
Yeah, the ripple is real. Yeah. And if we commit ourselves to that ripple, and we find ourselves in rooms of magic and humans, healers, those that are committed to this, elevating this space that we're in this form, yeah, the ripple is real. Absolutely. I feel that 100%.
Yeah. And I think if we own it, we will discover that we're so much powerful than what the systems would make us believe. If we own all these little actions and the ripple that they bring, we are so much powerful. We have so much in our hands to create positive change. And I think it's important we believe it.
I feel good, and that's not the word but bear with me. There is definitely an energy that you share, that is, and I know you've heard this from others, but let me just reflect back to you that it's a very real commitment that you energetically put out into the world. I'm experiencing it firsthand, and I just am in gratitude for our paths crossing, and letting me think with you and listen in on the way that your mind works. It's beautiful. I appreciate this time spent with you.
Me too, Natalie. Thank you so much. Thank you for this beautiful session together. I really appreciate it too.
Yeah. And I want to thank everyone here that's listening in real time, for themselves, whatever that looks like, for thinking out loud with me and today's guest, Carolini and Caroline. Honor both. Arco, given how many choices you have to spend your time, I'm honored that you've been sharing it here with the two of us. And until we visit again, please go live with love and intention. And please, please, please don't let anybody fuck with your flow. Big hugs, big love. Bye, friends.